Good morning. Good morning again, Dr. John Taylor Kent here. I've been looking at my notes in the book of Jeremiah, and I have a lot of things marked, that's for sure. So I will, as I go through this version of the Bible, will start to link these passages up and make more sense of them, because the Bible interprets itself. What I want to impress upon you with this video is the importance of knowing Yahweh's name, his proper name. And I've heard all kinds of excuses and all kinds of explanations and all sorts of things. But I really think that we have been blessed with this version of the Bible today because we need to call upon the name of Yahweh. And also to help clarify our thinking, because when we use those generic nouns like God, Lord, they could refer to just about anything. And that's the problem we have, is we don't know often who the Bible is talking about, to which Lord it refers to. And so here in Jeremiah, we've got in chapter 23, verse 27, I'll start in verse 26. Yes, this is the last half. Yes, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart, which think to cause my people to forget my name by their dreams, which they tell every man to his neighbor, as their fathers have forgotten my name for Baal. So, the problem is that when we find the word Lord in the Bible, sometimes it's all capital letters. Every letter is capitalized. Other times, just the first letter is capitalized. And those are supposed to be encoded, and we're supposed to know what those mean. But I think that's a little too obtuse. So basically, there are times in which the Bible refers to Lord, and we don't know if it's referring to Yahweh or to Baal. And it says right here that that's our confusion. So the advantages of the proper name version of the Bible is we get to correct ourselves. We get a more accurate Bible. We can have more accurate thinking, which is what I believe we need in this time, in this day, because the judgment appears to be on us. Now, my overall impressions from Jeremiah are that he tried to get them to repent, and he spoke on behalf of Yahweh, and the promise was there: turn from your wicked ways, abide by my laws, do justice, do right, and Yahweh would return to them. Otherwise, they were going to go into captivity. Quite a dichotomy. Not a false one. It was lived out, because they did go into captivity. That's exactly what happened. And there's a lot of details in here which are very important. So I want you to understand that it's important to know the proper name of God, of Yahweh, Creator, Father. We have in the Bible, in Genesis, a verse at the end of a chapter that says, at that time men began to call upon the name of Yahweh. That's an important verse. That's when we started to call upon him. Now, Yahweh, Creator, Father, set this whole thing up, and we're not supposed to be double negative, doesn't work too good. It was never intended that we would not be in relationship to Yahweh, that we would have a relationship, and we were not designed to do it on our own, sadly. And so by trying to do it on our own, we get off track. We go funny ways. We do things which are not good. But when we have the Word and we have it available and we actually read it and we do what it says to do, then we get the blessings. You won't get the blessings unless you do that which it says. And we have passages for those. I wonder if it's going to be labeled at the top of the page. Blessings and curses. Curses for disobedience. Well, I'll look that up later on. But basically, okay, a blessing if you obey. A blessing if you obey the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I command you this day. And a curse if you will not obey the commandments of Yahweh your God, but turn out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods which you have not known. That's Deuteronomy 11, verses 27, 28. So this is important, and there are sections, and the same sections are paralleled in Leviticus, that basically detail the blessings for following the Ten Commandments, and the curses, which are like twice as long, for not following the commandments. And if you read the commandments carefully, you realize this is just natural law. Yeah, so it's not quite the law of the jungle, but it's natural law. If you are going to be stealing from somebody else, you're going to have some consequences from the other person. So I implore upon you to get the right version of the Bible. Now, when I was sitting with a publisher and having I think it was lunch actually, I asked him, what's the right version of the Bible? And I told him, of course, I mean, he's eager to hear what I have to say. I kind of baited him with that question. But as I told him, the right version of the Bible is the one that you read. So whatever version of the Bible you read, I'm going to support that. And someday, I hope that you'll graduate to the King James Version. I think we can learn quite a bit from the Old English version of it still. And then I think we've got this modern English version, the proper name version of the King James Bible, which I think is quite a bit of an improvement. And they're blowing out this Bible for $37.77 for, leatherette, large print. Anybody else's Bibles, they'd be selling these things for well over $100. So this is a low price. It's not going to stay this way, so I have to warn you about that. And I don't even know when the price could be raised. All I know is I do get a commission. I've accepted the commission as offered. Sure, I tried to negotiate it momentarily, but it was being so generous with me. I was just grateful for the opportunity to introduce you to this new version in modern English for the Bible. My ancestor oversaw the production of the original King James Bible, and he also wrote the Shakespearean plays. So it seems fitting that I get to bring this Bible and correct some of the errors that gentleman and the messes that gentleman created for us. His name was Sir Francis Bacon. His father was a Kent, and his mother was Queen Elizabeth. And he's been able to stay submerged in history without being recognized as being one of the Queen's two sons. And she went down in history as having had no husband, no consort, but she had two boys. And it's quite an interesting story about the two boys. And one of them used William Shakespeare, the horse handler on the Kent estate, as a front so he could write these rather salty, spicy plays for the rest of the world, which revealed a lot of the inner workings of the court, which really blew people's minds, and it was great entertainment. He had the inside information. No wonder his plays went over so well, because people learned more from the plays than they did from the newspapers. I wonder, is that the way it is today? More from the stages, the truth, than from the mainstream news and the mainstream magazines? Yahweh bless. Please like my video, share it, subscribe. We are going to get into the Bible with this channel. That's the focus. I'll do my best not to do too much interpretation for you, and I'll try not to color things up. I'll always try to qualify things when When I have a hunch, and it's just a hunch, if there are limitations to the support of it, and even if there's alternatives, I'll probably mention the alternatives. For instance, there's a lot of things we can disagree about, and that's okay. When you read the Bible, you may say, hey, the flood of Noah was worldwide. That's what you want to hold to, that's okay. Others are going to say the flood of Noah was regional, and that's okay as well. What we can agree upon is that someday we're going to know. Someday we'll know the truth. At that point, I don't think there'll be much in the way of disagreement. Our nation depends upon Yahweh. And right now, Yahweh is angry with us, and he's consecrating us. He's given us the current leaders we have. I mean, look at all of the jackasses in D.C., and look at the jackasses in the state capitals. I'm sorry, but it's very hard to find a statesman or a stateswoman. I mean, we've got some people that are noble and worthy of merit. They still have some flaws. I like the governor of South Dakota. She at least acknowledges the limits of her authority, unlike the rest of the governors in the country. And we got DeSantis. He seems to be pretty good as well. We haven't had, and there's a good governor in Alaska as well. He's been pretty good, although he's upset the people because he doesn't give them enough free stuff. But there are some statesmen. I'm thinking of the Pauls, Ron Paul, and his son. We've got some interesting characters in this day and age. But in order to produce statesmen, we need to have Bible readers back up there. Men who have educated themselves with the Bible and understand the bigger picture. Now, in my case, I'm not qualified. I really couldn't handle the stress or the strain of it. I've just been through too much in this life. It has been a pretty rough one for me. There's no doubt about it. I do believe this is my mission, is to bring you this Bible in particular, and to get some of you in wanting to read the Bible and get into it. I mean, there's nothing I enjoy more than meeting fellow believers, Bible readers, and talking about what we've discovered in the Bible. We learn so much from each other. Those are my happiest days. And I look back, and some of those days were wonderful, sitting outside the church afterwards and brainstorming, trying to figure out what was the curse of Canaan, for instance. What did Ham do? What was the problem? We brainstormed and came up with a lot of things, and we did it respectfully, and we had some differences, believe me. And some of the stuff was like pretty wild. I'd never thought about such things. So I ask you to read the Bible, the whole Bible, especially spend time in Genesis, because that sets up the scene for where we are today. And you will see the United States of America, I believe, I could be wrong about this, foretold by Israel towards the end of the book of Genesis. We are the great nation. And his brother, Ephraim, became a company of nations, which is Great Britain. Now, I got some brothers out there that disagree with me and say, no, the United States of America is Ephraim, Great Britain is Manasseh. And that's one of those things that is okay for us to disagree with. Because if you can figure out what the cross of St. Andrew is, and if you can figure out how that blessing occurred, when he crossed his hands over in front of him and put his hands on the boys' heads and gave them the blessing. Joseph wasn't too happy about that. He tried to correct his father, but his father knew better. And if you can figure out what happened then and which one's which, I want to hear from you, because I reread that and I come up different every time. And even this version of the Bible doesn't specify that enough for me. But maybe you out there can help me out with that. So feel free to leave comments. If you understand that passage, if you have ideas, I want to know. Leave comments about anything that I discussed, that I brought up today, anything I forgot to bring up as well. I'd love to see some comments. They're wide open. I have had some not so good comments. primarily on my other channel. I got a notice of too many strikes on the other channel, and they won't even tell me if I've got one strike or they've given me more strikes. The communication with Google is really bad. Alphabet is definitely ruling the world in intellectual property as far as free speech. It's very anti-American to limit speech to that extent. I speak as truthfully, as honestly, as candidly as I am able, and I qualify things. So I did violate their terms because you can see right in there, you're not allowed to talk about 2020. Perfect vision. Even if you know the truth, even if you can cite the evidence, they don't give a shit. Sorry, but that's the truth. Yahweh bless.